Now the first part you can see here is the CAA pilot registration. That's called the Flyer ID. And this is a CAA exam which is 40 questions. It's a competency test. And if you pass it, or when you pass it, it's valid for 5 years and it's free to do. And the pass mark is 70%. And it's a very straightforward test. It's there to give you knowledge, to encourage you. It's a multiple choice type of exam. So you get a question, you'll get 4 potential answers and you'll answer one of them, which will be correct. Now the second part is the CAA operator registration. This is called the operator ID. This is where you would register your drone. And once you've registered your drone and paid a small payment of £10.33, you then get a number that you stick on the side of the drone. And that number can go on as many drones as you have. It's a one-off payment. You only pay for one payment, even if you have 2, 3, 5, 10 drones. But the same number goes on every drone. And you do renew it every. Let's go and have a look at the CAA website now and take a look at the Flyer ID and the Operator ID and how you can enrol for both of these. This is the CAA website and you can see drone and model aircraft code. So this is the first page and I'll put the link down below, but it's registered-drones.caa.co.uk. And on this first page, you'll see towards the bottom, there's a PDF that you can download. And I suggest you press on that and we'll have a look at that PDF. And you can run that PDF next to you when you're actually taking the test. So it's not designed to catch you out, this test. If you can have obviously have the PDF by the side, which is all the answers by the side to the questions. It's there to help you. I suggest you download the PDF, put it on your screen and have it by the side of you when you're taking the test. Let's take a look at both of these now. Looking at here on the screen, I've got the drone and model aircraft code on the left here, which you can see, and then I've got the PDF on the right. So looking to start and scroll down, you'll see the various contents. It's exactly the same. And when they ask you in the exam questions about this, the early questions, i.e. 3, 4, 5, will all be about points 3 to 9. The later questions, 20, 25, will be about protecting people's privacy, which are points 20 to 25. The questions will follow a logical pattern and will be numbered in the same way as you can see here. Let's just take a look down at maybe one of the first sections, which is type of ID needed, which is showing up on the PDF over here. If you are flying a drone under 250 grams with a camera, i.e. a Mini 3 Pro or a Mini 2, DJI Mini 2, then you actually don't need a Flyer ID. It's not mandatory, but I would strongly suggest you have a Flyer ID and do this exam. But you do need an operator ID for that drone. But anything above 250 grams, you will need both Flyer ID and operator ID. As I scroll through this PDF, you'll see all of the different items. And once we start getting down here, we can start to see the main key points, which I'm going to highlight to you that you really need to understand in the rules and regulations. I'm not going to go through every page on this, but I'll just highlight the key areas and we'll go into that now. Here are the main rules. This is the first one, visual line of sight. You always keep your drone or model aircraft in sight. You don't want it to go behind a tree or a building. You need to be able to see it at all times. Visual line of sight is often known as VLOS. And always keep your drone so that you can see it. And you need to be clear which way it's facing. You need to be able to see it and know which way it's facing, whether it's forward or back. And the maximum distance you can fly the drone away from you in the UK is 500 meters. But this is a restriction by the CAA. It's not a restriction on the drone. The drones can fly a lot further away. You look at the controller and then the drone, they can connect and fly a lot further than 500 meters. For example, a Mavic 2 will fly up to 10 kilometers away from the controller. It's not a constraint of the system. This is a restriction imposed by the CAA. Next important rule is never fly more than 120 metres or 400 feet above the Earth's surface. And this is a good diagram to explain this to you. The next important rule is do not fly closer to people than 50 metres. It's a 50 metre minimum. Remember 50 metres. We'll come back to this later. The next rule is known as the 1-to-1 rule. If the height x is equal to 50 metres, the minimum distance needs to be 50 metres. If the height increases to 60 metres, then the minimum distance x becomes 60 metres away from people. As the height goes up, so if we made it 80 metres, then the minimum distance is 80 metres. The next rule is a no-fly zone in areas from residential, recreational, commercial and industrial sites. And the minimum distance increases in these areas to 150 metres. Remember this 150 metres, and we'll come back to this later. And never fly where people have gathered in crowds or groups. The definition of a crowd is a group of people who cannot move away quickly because of the number of other people around them. They push together, so they haven't got room to move if a drone fell out of the sky. The old definition of a crowd was over 1,000 people, but it's no longer that. We never fly over people who are crowded together, no matter what size of drone or model aircraft you have. If it's under 250 grams, you cannot fly over a crowd of people. And examples of a crowd of people are events, political gatherings, all the things that you see on the screen here now. The next rule and regulation is arguably the most important, and that is that most airports, airfields are flight restricted zones, FRZs. You never fly in these zones unless you have permission from the airport or the airfield. The zone is in place to avoid all sorts of collision between aircraft and UAVs. Check the airport in detail for any restrictions. Some smaller airfields do not have an FRZ, but you still must not fly on or near these airfields. Smaller airfields may not appear on the map or in the drone app, so you must always look out for light aircraft, equipment or facilities that suggest there could be an airfield around, like microlight airfields or gliders and these type of things. The final thing they did was increase the police powers. Police can do on-the-spot fines, and they can also now confiscate a drone for people who are misusing it. Two other items which are no longer applicable came out in November 2019, and there was a differentiation between hobby flying and commercial drone use. If you wanted to fly a drone commercially, like we do, you needed to have a PFCO, a permission to fly commercial operations. This was an exam that you did. You had an operations manual. It was renewable every year for a fee to the CAA. This is no longer applicable. It was changed in January 2021, which we'll talk about later. These two items are not applicable anymore, but often you see a reference to PFCO on the internet. Then new legislation came out in January 2021. The PFCO was replaced by an A2 Certificate of Competency, A2 CFC, and a GVC, two separate exams, and they replaced the PFCO. And the A2 CFC we teach online, and it's £99 now for the online course. After the basic training course, if you want to take your education further and start to look at it, maybe doing something commercially, you will need to take an A2 CFC. Although there's no now differentiation between hobby flying and commercial flying. And to contact us, we have a website, a separate website called https@a2certificateofcompetency.co.uk. As of January 2021, we aligned ourselves with the European regulations, which are EASA, and they are based on risk, and the risk relates to weight and danger. They look at the weight of the drone and the light of the drone, especially a drone under 250 grams. It's deemed that if it falls out of the sky and hits a young person on the head, it won't kill them in effect, if we look through all of the specifications. And danger is something to do with the speed that the drone is flying. If the speed of the drone is restricted to, say, 1 meter per second, i.e. a slow speed mode of the drone, then people have got chance to get out of the way, and the operator has also got chance to change the course of the drone because it's flying a lot slower. At this point in January 2021, drones that were already in existence, or even drones that were sold after this date, like the Mavic 2 or the Phantom 4, or later the Mavic 3, which came out in 2021, they were deemed legacy drones, and they hadn't got an approval number from EASA. But recently, in August 2022 is the exact date, the Mavic 3 now has an EAS approval in Europe. But recently, and it's a bit complicated this, we have decided not to adopt anything to do with legacy drones. The legislation is based on risk. It's about the weight and the danger of the drone. Now, this is where we stand. Remember weight and danger. 250 grams is a key weight, and you'll see that DJI have developed a number of drones, the Mini 1, the Mini 2 and the Mini 3 Pro, all came out since 2021, and they're under 250 grams, and this is a key weight. It's weight and danger, 250 grams, slow speed mode, which is a key, and uninvolved people. Those are the three key items. There are categories. There are three categories: open, specific and certified. The open category is where most things are, or for us now. So hobby flyers and some commercial use. The specific is for larger drones, and the certified is for higher risk operations, even bigger drones. They don't really apply. 2 and 3 don't apply in this particular case. We're looking at the open category. The open category has 3 subcategories. A1, fly over people. A2, fly close to people. A3, fly far from people. Look at the A2 and the A3 as distances. So the A2 is a minimum of 50 meters away, and an A3 is a minimum of 150 meters away, which, if you look at the previous slides, had a 150 meter minimum and a 50 meter minimum. So look at A2 and A3 in those ways. And A1 is flying over people or close to people. And uninvolved people is another key matter. Now, slow speed mode, because we haven't adopted the EASA European regs for the legacy drones, is not really applicable. The Mavic 3 got approval in Europe for its slow speed mode in August 2022, but it's not extended to the UK. We're not doing that. So that's where the confusion is arising. With a drone that's under 250 grams, you're not restricted to where you can fly it. You have to be sensible. Obviously the blades can cut people, but you can fly over uninvolved people, you can fly close to people, you're not restricted to 50 meters. And that's the A1 category. Now, all legacy drones were due to stop 31st of December 2022. So we're going to move from the A2 category, minimum of 50 meters, to the A3 category, a minimum of 150 meters. If you had a Phantom 4, you could only fly it up to a minimum of 50 meters from somebody on the A2 category, and that was going to change to 150 meters from people on the 31st December 2022. That's now been extended to the 1st of January 2026. If you have a Mavic 2 or a Phantom 4, for example, you can still fly it up to a minimum of 50 meters from people under the A2 category. But where the key changes have come with the drones from DJI, the Mini 3, the Mini 3 Pro, the Mini 2, which are all under 250 grams, they can now fly a lot closer to people under the A1 category. If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to the channel or watch the next video in the playlist or the new videos that we've just recently downloaded. Bye for now.